Charlie Chaplin is probably one of the most recognizable faces in film history. His comedic on-screen character known as the Tramp is considered as one of the most memorable and one that defined the silent film era. Charles Spencer Chaplin was born in London, England on April 16, 1889 AD. His father was a versatile vocalist and actor, and his mother, Hannah Chaplin, known under the stage name of Lily Harley, was an attractive actress and singer who gained a reputation for her work in the light opera film. Although his parents never divorced, the couple became estranged by 1891 AD when Chaplin was just 2 years old. It is reported that at age 5, Chaplin replaced his mother, who was suffering from laryngitis, at a music hall show singing his first song, Jack Jones, in front of a crowd of soldiers. During one of Charlie Chaplin's mother's stage show, her voice choked in front of the audience. The stage manager then decided to send Charlie on the stage where he sang a famous song, Jack Jones, which was loved by the audience so much that they ended up showering money on him. Around September 1st, 1896 AD, his mother, Hannah Chaplin, had fallen ill and she was hospitalized. Due to this, Charlie Chaplin and his stepbrother Sidney would have to stay with his alcoholic father. As the health of Chaplin's mother deteriorated, so too did the family's finance. It got so bad that in 1896, Chaplin and his older half-brother were sent to public boarding school for an orphan and destitute children. Chaplin spent about 18 months there, the longest period of continuous schooling he would ever receive. Shortly thereafter, his mother was committed to a mental institution. When Charlie's mother was institutionalized in 1898 AD, Charlie and his older brother went to live with his father, Charles Sr., who died 2 years later from alcoholism, leaving the two Chaplin brothers to fend for themselves. His mother, Hannah Chaplin, died in a mental asylum 23 years later. Charlie was thrown on his own resources before he could reach the age of 10, as the early death of his father and the subsequent illness of his mother. To say Chaplin had a rough childhood would be an understatement. In 1899 AD, at the age of 10, a young Chaplin joins a troupe of clog dancers called the Eight Lancashire Lads. It is through his father's show business connection that he lands the gig. They tour across the UK. He was a very talented tap dancer, and the act was popular in the music hall. He was encouraged to be in the performing arts by his mother. And though he traveled with the group until 1900 AD, he was dissatisfied with the dancing, preferring the arts of acting and comedy. Around 1903 to 1905 AD, Charlie Chaplin registered with a theatrical agency and began working as a comedic actor in plays such as Jim, A Romance of Cockaigne, and Sherlock Holmes. In 1906 AD, Chaplin joins a juvenile troupe called Casey's Circus. Here, Charlie Chaplin becomes one of its star performers. In 1908 AD, Chaplin's older brother, Sidney, who was already an established performer with Fred Carnot, manages to get an audition for his brother, Charlie Chaplin, with the company. Charlie Chaplin experiences success playing a drunk in one of their regular productions. By 1909 AD, Charlie was in a starting role because of his ability and popularity. In 1910 AD, the Carnot Company tours the United States. Chaplin comes to the attention of the owners of the New York Motion Picture Company. In September of 1913, they offer Charlie Chaplin a contract with the Keystone Film Company. Then he earns $150 per week. In 1914 AD, by his second film for Keystone, Chaplin has developed his now famous tramp character. Charlie Chaplin's first film was called Making a Living, which was released on February 2, 1914 AD. Charlie Chaplin soon created his famous character, the Tramp, and appeared in the silent films. The Tramp was characterized by a small mustache, a black hat, a tight coat, and a baggy pants. In 1915 AD, Chaplin signs with the Essensi Film Company. It is here that he begins to expand his Tramp character and give it more dimension. In 1915 AD, Charlie Chaplin took part in a Charlie Chaplin look-alike contest. Unbelievably, the judges and the audition didn't realize that he was the real one. It is reported that instead of winning, he took home the third prize. By 1915-80, Chaplin's films were so popular with audiences that he had become a total pop culture phenomenon and maybe even the first real film star. Stores were selling Chaplin and the Little Tramp merchandise, and people wounded him in public wherever he went. One journalist even called the worldwide craze as Chaplinitis. In 1916-80, by accepting a contract with the Mutual Film Company, Charlie Chaplin becomes the highest paid film actor with an annual salary of $670,000. He makes 12 short comedies for the studio during his tenure there, creating what many critics consider some of his best work. During this time, the President of the United States was paid $75,000 per year. In 1917-80, Chaplin signs with the distributor First Nation for $1 million to complete 8 films. He also builds his own studio in Hollywood. In 1918-80, Charlie Chaplin marries his first wife, the 16-year-old actress Mildred Harris. When he was a rising star, his 16-year-old lover, Mildred Harris, confessed to him that she was pregnant, forcing him to marry her in a quickie wedding. They had a son in 1980 who lived for just 3 days, and they were separated later that year. When they divorced in 1920-80, his first wife, Harris, got some property and a $100,000 settlement. In 1980, together with D.W. Griffin, Douglas Fairbanks, and Mary Pickford, Chaplin established the distribution company United Artists. It is a company that is fully owned and run by the people responsible for producing its creative output. In 1922-80, Chaplin produces his first film under the United Artists banner, A Woman of Paris. It is a drama about 2 ill-fated lovers. Chaplin was not in the film, and as a result, it suffers at the box office. In 1924-80, Chaplin's second marriage to the actress Lita Grey was even more trouble than his first. Like his first wife Mildred, Grey was just a 16-year-old girl when she met the 35-year-old Chaplin and got pregnant. Chaplin was terrified that the authorities would charge him with the activity with a minor. So he hastily wed the girl in Mexico and tried to be happy. But he wasn't. Chaplin marries his second wife, the 16-year-old actress Lita Grey. Chaplin spent all his free time away from home, desperately trying to avoid Grey even after they had 2 children together. The marriage would last only 2 years. Chaplin was naturally left-handed. You'll notice in his film he does things with his left hand, like playing the violin or throwing rocks. However, like other lefties, he was forced to learn to write with his right hand because left-handed was seen as a deviant. Chaplin was the first actor ever to appear in Time magazine in 6 July 1925 issue. The magazine is famous for its influential and controversial covers, and thus was a big step for the actor. In 1926-80, his second wife, Lita Grey, finally had enough and left Chaplin, taking the children with her. But when she filed for divorce, everything unraveled. A bitter, enraged Grey charged him not only with infidelity and misconduct, but also with perverted desire. Even worse, the press got a hold of the allegation, and soon the public was demanding to ban his film. Ultimately, Chaplin paid Grey the massive sum of $600,000 to make it all go away. In 1929-80, at the first annual Academy Awards, Chaplin is honored with a special trophy for his work on The Circus, a film he produced in 1927-80. Becoming one of the most iconic of silent cinema, Chaplin refused to adopt audio and dialogue for a long time, even though sound technology in film industry was becoming increasingly popular. He continued with his own idea of cinema, convinced that sound would ruin the Little Tramp. However, he gradually introduced music and other sounds as a device in his later movies, including City Light 1931, Modern Times 1936, and The Great Dictator 1940. In 1931-80, in an era of talking picture, Chaplin releases the silent film feature City Light. Although absent many dialogue, the film had sound effects and a musical score composed by Chaplin himself. In 1936-80, Chaplin releases Modern Times. With the exception of one song that he sings, it is essentially a silent film. Again, Chaplin composed music for the film. It was the last appearance of his tramp character. After the film's release, Chaplin is married for the third time to actress Paulette Goddard. He was 47 years old at that time. In 1937-80, Disney releases Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, its first feature animated movie. Walt Disney was unsure about how well the movie would do, but Chaplin reportedly encouraged the filmmaker to complete and distribute Snow White. The two became business associates, and Chaplin played an important role in the spread of Disney's name. In 1940-80, Chaplin released his first talking picture, the political satire, The Great Dictator. It is an undisguised parody of Adolf Hitler and fascism. In it, Chaplin plays a dual role as a totalitarian leader, Adenoid Heiklin, and a Jewish barber. The politics became overt when Chaplin broke through his barber character at the end of the film to deliver a diatribe against Hitler and fascism. Chaplin's politics would begin to turn his audience against him. Despite this, the film was nominated for Best Actor and Best Picture awards. Although Chaplin had political troubles and messy marriages, his biggest controversy actually happened because of his extramarital affair. In the 1940s, the middle-aged and married Chaplin started having a steamy relation with 22-year-old aspiring starlet Joan Barry. When Chaplin ended things with Barry, the young girl did not take it well at all. She suffered from obsessive and paranoid behavior. In 1943-80, his fourth and final marriage was with the 18-year-old Ona O'Neill when Chaplin was 54. O'Neill's father, playwright Eugene O'Neill, was so upset by the match that he disinherited her. But unlike Chaplin's other relationship, this would last. She gave birth to 8 of the 11 Chaplin children, and they lived together until Chaplin's death. In that same year, aspiring actress Joan Barry files a paternity suit against the actor. Much publicized by the media, it further erodes Chaplin's popularity. In 1952-80, Chaplin released his last film, Made in America, Limelight. Upon traveling to London for the film premiere, the US Immigration Service advised Chaplin that he will be refused re-entry into the United States. Chaplin never became an American citizen, despite having lived in the United States for almost 40 years. After the movie Modern Times, he gained a reputation of a communist sympathizer. Charlie Chaplin openly pleaded against fascism, war, and capitalism in his movies. He was slandered by the FBI and banned from the USA. In 1952-80, the US government revoked his permit, meaning Chaplin was not allowed to return to the United States after a holiday to England. As a result, Charlie Chaplin moved to Switzerland, where he spent the rest of his life. He only returned to the United States in 1972-80 to accept his honorary Oscar. In 1972-80, Chaplin actually won an Oscar for the music in Limelight 1952, which he helped compose. On December 25, 1977-80, with his health in decline for several years, Charlie Chaplin dies at his home in Switzerland. He died on Christmas Day. Charlie Chaplin was 88 years old. Just a few months after Chaplin's death, 2 robbers stole his coffin from a Swiss cemetery and sent his wife $600,000 ransom demand. When she refused to pay, they allegedly threatened her kids. The bungling robbers were soon caught, however, and the coffin was recovered 11 weeks later. It was then reburied in a theft-proof concrete vault. Charlie Chaplin had blue eyes. Charlie Chaplin's signature, toothbrush mustache, was artificial. Chaplin married 4 times, each time to a lady younger than him. His wives were often in their teens at the time of wedding, no matter how old Charlie Chaplin was. Albert Einstein was a guest of honor during the premiere of Chaplin's movie. When Einstein met Charlie Chaplin, Chaplin remarked, "The people applaud me because everybody understands me, and they applaud you because no one understands you." In 1981-80, Ukrainian astronomer Lyudmila Georgievna Karkanchia discovered an asteroid in the solar system's main asteroid belt and named it after Charlie Chaplin. The official name is 3623 Chaplin. Thank you.